Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'm Keith Griffey. I'm the vice chair. I'm sitting in for Mayor Chapman, who actually, as we speak, I guess, is jumping out of an airplane. He is skydiving today, which, again, I think I'd rather be sitting here than doing that. But that's pretty impressive. So having said that, one of the things we need to remind everybody that public comments, if the public wants to comment, you can go to the chat function, and Greg Burris will cover those in item 3. So having said that, we'll do the roll call, and that's Amanda.
Very good, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. You might just go ahead and unmute so you can let me know that you're here when I call your name. Judge Summers, Felicia Harper, Keith Griffey.
Here.
Mayor Treva Hodges, Mayor Deareth, Matt Mignette. Thanks, Matt. Mayor Moore.
Andy Crouch for Mayor Moore.
Thanks, Andy. Chad Ricecool.
Chad won't be joining us today.
Okay. Mayor Jeff Gahan. John Rosenbarger. Chris John Streeps. Larry Summers. Mayor Chester Burton. Jeff Early. Mayor Tonini.
Bernie Bowling for Mayor Tonini.
Thank you, Bernie. Commissioner Jack Kaufman. Brian Dixon. Commissioner Sean Carruthers. Don Lopp. Justin Tackett. Secretary Joe McGinnis. Kathy Eaton McCallum. Tony McClellan.
Here.
Robin Bolte. Mayor Chapman, again, at 14,000 feet currently.
That's extreme social distancing.
Right. Secretary Jim Gray. Mr. Matt Bullock.
Matt's here.
Steve Ross. Thomas Witt. Tanya Higdon.
Here.
Mayor Greg Fisher. Dirk Gowan.
Here.
Gretchen Milliken. Jeff O'Brien.
Here.
Vanessa Burns. James Welch. Brian Sinwell. Dan Mann. Judge Vogel. Jim Urban. Kevin Nuss. Councilman Ryan Ramsey.
Kevin Beatty for Ryan.
Thanks, Kevin. Brittany Montgomery.
Will not be here.
Dylan Fisher.
No longer with the town.
Mary Morrow. Carrie Butler. Ida Kopic.
I'm here.
Jeffrey Hoban. All right, we do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. We'll now look at the July 23rd, 2020 TPC meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Andy Crouch.
Thank you, Andy. Is there a second?
Second, Matt Mignette.
Thank you. And again, if you make a motion or a second, if you just say your name, that'd make it easier for us to put that in the minutes. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Right now, we'll go to Greg Burris for the public comment period. Greg, is there anybody that has gone into the chat for the public comment?
There is no one here for the public comments.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. And Greg, you're still up for the public involvement report?
Yes, sir. My name is Greg Burris, community outreach specialist. Go ahead and get to this month's report. We began working on a new social media strategy. Our goal is to hear a clear and consistent message across the board, along with educating the public and encouraging more involvement. We also developed enhancements to the public participation page ease the public's ability in contacting KIPTA with transportation concerns, along with creating an interactive map where the public can now leave comments with pinpointed results. We worked with the media outlets on advertising for the upcoming public involvement period with Amendment 2 in the coordinated plan. On September 18th, KIPTA spotlighted longtime transportation planner David Burton across all social media channels. So congratulations to David. That's much deserved recognition. On September 22nd, we attended the virtual Good Morning Networking event put on by the St. Matthews Area Chamber of Commerce. And we also responded to several public inquiries on projects throughout the region through email and phone, and responded to social media comments with information, resources when possible. So that concludes this month's report.
All right, thank you. And there's no motion. We don't have to take any action on this. All right, we'll move along. Nick Vale is up with the Project Management Guidebook. Nick, are you out there?
All right. Thank you, Keith. Let me share screen. Oh, you got me, Amanda? Okay. So while Amanda's pulling that up, this project management guidebook, if you haven't read the memo, it's this document essentially replacing our project management process documents that you guys had all approved back in, I think, August of 2016. And these rules are basically designed to provide some clarity and some transparency and accountability to the public, but also kind of formalize how KIPTA manages what we call our MPO dedicated funding program. So in Kentucky, we have the two STBG, often referred to as SLO funds, and then the Transportation Alternatives Program. And in Indiana, we have the 4 STBGTA plus Safety Improvement Program and the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program. So this new guidebook will apply to all of the MPO dedicated programs. Over the last few years of working with the project management process and the rules that were initially designed, there's been input from project sponsors, from KIPTA staff, and others on improvements that we can make to still hold folks accountable, but make sure that we don't have an administrative burden that's too high. So what we've done, I think, is balance all of that, transparency, accountability, and the administrative burden. And I can quickly kind of go over some of the changes that are being made that are kind of the more notable ones. But before I do that, let me just say thank you to everybody on the TTCC working group. This group was formed back in February. I think we had at least 4 or 5 virtual meetings, talked about a lot of this stuff in depth. I think 1 or 2 meetings went 2 hours in length. Don't typically like to do, of course, but I appreciate everyone's dedication on that. And they all have seen this document, and TTCC also recommended approval. So just to get into kind of the high points of what's changing, again, new name, Project Management Guidebook, and that's just because we have something called the Performance Management Plan. It's actually PMP. We're just trying to get away from that a little bit. Again, it applies to all the dedicated programs, these rules. There's obviously nuances with each program in each state because each state handles things differently, and the document outlines those differences. We've pretty much transitioned to almost a complete submittal of forms and applications through our online transportation planning portal. I think the only thing that we don't do online now is just our progress reports, and maybe one day we'll do that as well. One of the keys here is there's going to be increased funding availability for planning studies. That's pretty much specific to Kentucky and the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, where we get a considerable amount of funds each year. And it makes sense to do some planning studies for some of the long range projects. So the threshold is increasing, I believe, from 2 to 5%. And that's on annually. So that may build up over a number of years. This is a big one. The next one, remove the 20% cost increase threshold. Previously, anytime a sponsor applied for a cost increase and the percentage difference from the original estimate and the new estimate, if it was over 20%, it automatically had to go to TPC for approval. and we're going to handle that kind of on a staff level now. And the only time cost increases will really come to you guys for explicit approval would be when there are more requests than there are funds available. So anytime there's actually a competition and a hard decision to be made, we will still obviously bring that to TPC. But if somebody submits a request for $1 million and it's and we can fund it through one of our programs, I think the group has decided that that's the course we'll take. The next one is probably the biggest one. It took a couple meetings to hammer this stuff out, maybe 3 meetings. Schedule. So this really only applies in Kentucky because they have the ability to carry over funds from one year to the next. In Indiana, the rules are you use it or lose it in the fiscal year in which the funds were allocated. So the new rules for managing schedules essentially takes two different tracks. If the project sponsor is still either designing the project or hasn't, basically, if the project sponsor has not obligated funds for a phase after the design phase, so that might be right-of-way or utilities, that project sponsor can shift a phase of a project twice, and there's also one exception. Now, once a project sponsor has obligated the next phase after design, either right-of-way or utilities, the project sponsors will have unlimited phase shifts. Obviously, it's in everyone's best interest to get the projects done on time, but the group kind of feels that once right-of-way is beginning to be acquired, we need to make sure that that project can stay on track and make it to construction without being canceled for some reason. There's lots of detail about that in the guidebook. I don't want to beat that to death, but that was a big one. And then lastly, we did reduce the reporting and meeting requirements for Kentucky sponsors. That was kind of a request they made. So instead of reporting quarterly, they'll report semi-annually. Indiana project sponsors are required by TxDOT to meet quarterly. So we're going to continue doing that and having their quarterly progress reports. That concludes my presentation. I do have action, but I'll open it up for any questions or comments.
Any questions for Nick?
Okay. So my action to you all is for TPC to approve the project management guidebook.
All right.
So moved.
Who was it that made the motion, please?
I think it was Aida.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Motion.
Second, Andy Crouch.
Thank you, Andy. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, it passes. Thank you, Nick, and thanks for all the work you did on that. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right, Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan update. This is Elizabeth.
Hello. I want to give you all an update on the Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan, as well as ask for action to take it out to the public. So as a quick recap, this plan is the 2020 update to the 2014 plan that had a minor update in 2016. So there definitely some new information that is included. So in spring and summer of this year, we started off by looking at the current providers in the region of transportation services aimed at older adults and individuals with disabilities. We also did some data analysis on existing conditions, demographics, to kind of round out that data profile in the plan. In May through July, we had 2 online surveys going, one for the public and one for transportation providers, to seek their input on what they thought about current services available, what they were looking for that would make riding, their mobility easier or more convenient. And we got over 100 responses. So it was very good considering the COVID situation. We weren't able to have in-person meetings, but the online platform really worked for us in this instance. In August, I sent out emails to TPC and TTCC to ask for input on the goals and objectives that we came up with for the plan. They're pared down from the previous iteration of the plan. And we hope that this just creates a more streamlined effort to prioritize projects with 5310 funding through FTA. So we can just kind of aim smarter at what we need for the region. And then here we are now in September. The draft coordinated plan has been reviewed by TTCC and got a couple of comments back, only one that was in addition to just one part in the 5310 funding. So that was good that people reviewed it. And this draft was also included in the TPC packet for this meeting. Okay, so just kind of going through our process, we looked at 4 main areas for the plan. First being existing conditions, looking at available transportation services, coming up with a list of providers, their updated contact information, updated service information where we were able to find it. This list is used by TARC3, by our own social services department to refer people to transportation services. So we really wanted to have that updated for them. And we also looked at activity centers. Where are there clusters of medical services? Where are there clusters of shopping that people might be needing to get to in their everyday lives? We also looked at the demographic profile, like I mentioned before, the high concentrations of older adults and individuals with disabilities throughout the region. We overlaid transit on top of those census tracts to see where there is accessibility to transit right now and where there isn't. Digging into the survey results, we asked the public, what would it take to get you to use transportation services? What would make it more convenient, more accessible for you? And then for providers, what is the major challenge to providing service in our region? We always hear about funding, but what else is there that we could potentially help with through coordination in the region? And finally, from those 3, we identified 4 main themes for needs in the region: performance, so like the reliability of service, access, what services out there, what destinations need to be served, safety, including infrastructure, meeting the medical needs of these populations sometimes, and then coordination. What can we do as agencies across the region, providers across the region? What can we do to share resources, to identify new funding streams? What can we do to make these services work better for the people? And from all those, we also came up with 4 goals. You've seen these before, but I just wanted to throw them up there again. Again, linked to the 4 themes of needs to kind of be continuous. And then, so what's next? Right now we're in September. I'm going to be asking you all to take this plan out for a public comment at the end of October, October 19th through November 2nd, in conjunction with Amendment 2. And then in November, I plan on telling you all any comments that we received, and then asking for final approval of this plan so we can have it working for us for the next round of 5310 funding. So the action that I'm requesting is for TPC to approve presenting the Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan for public review and input.
Okay, are there any questions for Elizabeth? Any comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, this is Aida.
Thank you, Ida. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Again, any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Keith,
Thank you very much.
Yes.
who made that motion?
Oh, who made the motion on that?
Mayor Chester Burton, thank you.
Okay, you got it. Thank you, David. And next up is Amendment 2 to the Connecting Kentuckiana 2040 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, fiscal year 2020 to 25, Transportation Improvement Program. And it'll be David. And David, it's just, you're just having all kinds of fun. It's David's birthday. I would suggest we sing happy birthday, but I'm going to pass on that because I don't want to do that.
Oh, come on, Keith.
but we want to wish you happy birthday. And what better place to spend your birthday than here?
Well, I'll tell you what, there is no place I would rather be than, right here talking to all of you great people, I'll tell you. Now, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I also get the opportunity to talk about, talk about the Amendment 2 to the Connecting Kentuckiana 2040 MTP and the FY 2020 to 25 Transportation Improvement Program. Nick and I are presenting this, but in all honesty, it's been Nick and Dane Hoskins who's been responsible for actually pulling all this information together. But on August 31, we had accepted applications until that date for any changes to the MTP or the TIP. And I think we received around 80 project changes or new projects to be added to either or both of these documents. And we're really pleased at this process. This is the first time we rolled out with the new project application form and its updated version, and that really worked well for us. And I think it helped us to organize things in a much better and smoother and efficient manner. We have completed the process of trying to review the projects, and we're getting ready to take it out to public involvement in the coming weeks, sometime beginning in October. After we've completed public involvement, we're going to want to bring the comments back to you, the TPC, to make sure you're aware of any interest that the public has brought forth, so that you can be more informed with their ideas and wishes. And then we hope to bring the full process back to the Transportation Policy Committee in November, where we will be seeking action to adopt Amendment 2. So that pretty much captures it. Nick, you want to add anything to that at all?
Hey, sorry about that. I think you kind of hit all the high notes. Like David said, we had a lot of projects, so not all of those we're going through the amendment. Some we're going to try to process through an admin mod. And so I think we're still on track to be presenting this to you all in November, but we do have a few things to kind of clean up before we start our air quality analysis and all of that. But I think we're on track, and like David said, I think everything's rolling pretty well.
Other than my happy birthday song, Keith, that's all we need.
We'll have to take a rain check on that one. So we'll do that later. There's no action requested on this. David, Nick, thank you for your work on this. We appreciate it. We're going to amendment item number 8, Kentucky RIVERPORTS, Highways and Rail Freight Study. And I'm going to turn this over to Amanda. We have a special guest. Amanda's going to introduce.
Yes, thank you. And first, I do want to say I did sing to David this morning. I felt like it was very special. I gave it my all, and no credit there. It's okay, David. But it is very much my pleasure to introduce to you all Jeremy Edgeworth. He serves as the Freight, Rail, and Waterways Coordinator for the Transportation Cabinet. Mr. Edgeworth previously served in this role from 2007 to 2013. He returned to his position in June of 2018 after 5 years with the Kentucky General Assembly. Jeremy has a Master's of Urban Planning from the University of Louisville. And I must add to that humble bio that he is a highly skilled, dedicated, very dedicated public servant and a really nice person. So Jeremy, thank you for joining us. I know this group's going to enjoy your report today.
I do. Let me see if I can get my screen to share here. Can everybody see that? Perfect. Okay. I was asked by Ms. Spencer to talk about two initiatives currently underway by the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. First, I'll talk about our RIVERPORTS, highway, and rail freight analysis study, and then I will briefly discuss our upcoming statewide truck parking assessment and action plan. Kentucky has a great advantage with its location being in the center of a vast freight network of interstates, rail lines, and waterways that allow our goods to move into the domestic and global marketplace. But the network I want to focus on is our waterways network. Kentucky has 1,590 miles of navigable inland waterways, ranking it 4th in the nation. Kentucky is surrounded on 3 sides by commercially navigable rivers of the Mississippi, Ohio, and Big Sandy River, and we also have the Tennessee, Cumberland, Green, and Licking rivers able to move freight. In 2018, our ports, inland waterways, and inland waterway dependent industries supported nearly 110,000 jobs, giving rise to more than $1.2 billion in state and local tax revenue. In 2018, 108 million tons of freight valued at $11.9 billion moved on Kentucky's inland waterways, which is equivalent to 2.7 million trucks. This included 41.4 million tons of coal, lignite, and coal coke, 35.8 million tons of sand, gravel, shells, clay, salt, and slag, and 8.7 million tons of petroleum products. Kentucky's waterways are supported by 7 public river ports, with 4 more public river ports at differing stages of development. Public river ports are quasi-government entities that are chartered by cities, counties, or a mixture of cities and counties. The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet is charged with oversight and approval of all public river port authorities. There are also hundreds of private ports along our waterways. In 2008, the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet conducted its first study of our public river ports. This document provided an in-depth inventory of the existing public river port authorities, their infrastructure, provided a strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat analysis of each public river port, and made some general policy recommendations. For instance, it recommended the creation of a water transportation advisory board and the establishment of financial assistance programs for the public river ports. After a great deal of effort on the part of the public river ports, in 2010, the Water Transportation Advisory Board was established by legislation with the board members appointed by the governor. The Kentucky Riverport Improvement Program was also established the same year with a $500,000 appropriation of general funds to the Transportation Cabinet to assist the public riverports with infrastructure improvements. This $500,000 per year appropriation has continued since 2010. To date, the Transportation Cabinet has awarded $4.3 million to 64 projects at our public riverports, and these are photos of some of the recently funded projects that we've done. Jump ahead to January 2018. At the Kentuckians for Better Transportation Conference, the governor in his remarks touted the advantages that Kentucky has with our waterways network, and he challenged those in attendance to find ways to better utilize our waterways. The public river ports and the Kentucky Association of River Ports took up the challenge and began the process of beginning a new study. They drafted the framework for a new study to address the governor's challenge and approach the leadership of the Transportation Cabinet and the Cabinet for Economic Development. Both cabinets agreed the study was needed, and through the efforts of Ms. Spencer as the former director of divisional planning, the necessary funding was identified, thus kicking off the Kentucky Riverports Highway and Rail Freight Analysis Study. The study began in April and is expected to be completed by August 2021. It is a $1 million effort with Metro Analytics as the prime contractor, with IHS Markit providing the critical data and analysis, QK4 providing the engineering experience and local knowledge, and Razor Communications rounding out the project team, providing the public relations and marketing skill set. There are 3 main components of the study. First is an in-depth analysis of the freight moving out of, into, and through Kentucky. This is looking at freight on all modes, road, rail, and river, and then really diving into the commodities that are currently moving through Kentucky and understanding the existing role of freight in Kentucky's economy. What are the opportunities for growth and expansion? What are the strengths and weaknesses of the current freight network? What is the value of the commodities moving on our waterways? And then really analyzing the waterways to make recommendations for growth based upon potential future markets. Is coal the commodity that is going to grow our waterways, or has the peak of coal been reached and different commodities are the wave of the future? Or is moving containers on barge the new growth opportunity? The second part is an in-depth analysis of each of our public ports, expanding on the 2008 study. What are the growth opportunities for each public river port? What are the commodities they need to be pursuing? What infrastructure is needed at each port to pursue these new commodities? Is the port positioned to best capture the growing commodities? If the growth commodity identified as liquid fertilizer, do they have the infrastructure in place to move this into and out of the port as needed? This task will involve multiple on-site assessments of each public port, as well as engaging port city and statewide stakeholders for the vision for each public port. The third part of the study then is how to market our ports. The Transportation Cabinet does a great job building roads, but we do not know the first thing about marketing. So we have partnered with the Economic Development Cabinet to really outline how the port should market themselves to pursue the growing markets. One thing we've been told is the Economic Development Cabinet and even the local economic development staff frequently do not understand what a port is or how it operates. There's also high turnover in economic development, making it difficult to maintain that knowledge base. So a marketing toolkit is being developed to demonstrate the economic benefits of a port, as well as how to market a port. This can be a tool for economic development leaders, river port managers, local governments, and others to use to promote our waterway network for both foreign and domestic commerce. The study is currently in the data analysis and forecasting phase, with the on-site port visits expected to begin the first part of October. The first of several summits is also being scheduled for October. The overarching goal for this study is to be a benefit to the ports. The study is meant to provide definitive steps each port can take to bolster its position in the future. We don't want this to just be another study that is thrown on the shelf. If you want to be a part of the study, or if you want to follow its progress, feel free to check out our project website. If you go to transportation.ky.gov and search for RIVERPORTS, at the bottom of the RIVERPORT page is this study logo and link. It will update you on the project progress, and you can sign up to be kept apprised of stakeholder engagement opportunities. Now I would like to move on to a brief discussion of our upcoming statewide truck parking assessment and action plan. Unfortunately, scenes such as these are all too common. As you drive down our interstates and parkways in the evenings or early mornings, you will find trucks lining the ramps and even at the ramps to our rest areas and way stations. This is frequently caused by truckers who have reached their maximum daily hours of service and have to park for their federally mandated rest period. So they just park their trucks wherever they can find space when the clock ends. This causes congestion on the ramps, as well as safety hazards for the truck drivers and the traveling public. Unfortunately, the days of the state buying acres of land and paving them for truck parking is no longer financially feasible. This is an example of truck parking along I-90 in Indiana. While I would love to see these throughout Kentucky, we need to look at realistic, low-cost options to address the truck parking demand using the resources the cabinet already owns. In 2019, the Division of Planning commissioned a quick look study at a few of the vacant rest areas and way stations throughout Kentucky to give cabinet leadership an idea of the cost to convert those to truck parking. It found that to convert an abandoned way station in Henry County, it would cost $1.8 million and we would gain 9 spaces. Whereas for $2.7 million, we could convert an abandoned rest area in Carroll County to basic truck parking and gain more than 80 spaces. So we realized there was a potential to help address truck parking using resources the cabinet already owned. So the decision was made to move to a larger statewide assessment to analyze the demand for truck parking and how we can use existing state resources to address that demand. So the first task is a thorough assessment of the statewide demand for truck parking, where are the trucks currently parked for their mandated rest period. This involves looking at everywhere trucks are parking along our interstates and parkways, but also the state routes, city roads, county roads, Walmart parking lots everywhere. This is going to be a challenge as there's not one good way to quantify truck parking demand. One of the major criteria by which the selection committee is going to score the consultant submissions is by their outlined approach to quantifying truck parking demands. The second task would be to analyze the cabinet's assets to determine if they can be used to address this demand. Is there an existing way station or rest area that could be expanded to address some of the demand as shown in these images? Does the facility utilization show that some of the general vehicle parking could be converted to truck parking? Could any of the cabinet's 24 vacant rest areas or way stations be repurposed for basic truck parking? Does the cabinet own excess right-of-way, possibly from an old road project, that could be used to construct basic truck parking? We also expect the consultant to demonstrate out-of-the-box thinking to suggest creative options for addressing the truck parking problem in Kentucky. These are examples of innovative solutions that have been constructed throughout the U.S. On the top is parallel truck parking along I-80 in Wyoming. On the bottom is parking within the on-ramp constructed along I-80 in Nebraska. I can think of lots of places throughout Kentucky where these types of projects could be constructed, but we want to hear if these would be feasible and other unique solutions as well. Kentucky is also fortunate to participate in the Truck Parking IMS program. This is a coalition of 8 states implementing a technology initiative to communicate to truck drivers the real-time availability of truck parking along the corridor shown on the map. You may have even seen the signs along I-65 and I-75. Unfortunately, the TPIMS has only been implemented at 7 facilities in Kentucky and only covers 234 total truck parking spaces. So one of the recommendations of the assessment and action plan may be to expand this network to communicate availability of more of our network to truck parking spaces if it is determined that a supply and demand imbalance exists. Or does the cabinet need to partner with private mobile applications and websites that advertise truck parking to highlight availability? The cabinet is open to all solutions, whether they're infrastructure-based or technology-based. The result of the assessment would be the creation of an action plan for the cabinet with a prioritized list of recommendations with preliminary designs to show the possible capacity at the sites, as well as an estimate of costs. How can we spend our limited resources to 1, quickly implement, 2, impact the problem, and 3, get the greatest return on our investment? The request for proposals for the assessment and action plan will be released with the cabinet's October procurement bulletin that will be posted on October 13th. Thank you for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about either our Riverport, highway, and rail freight analysis study or our upcoming statewide truck parking assessment and action plan. If you need to reach me after the meeting, my contact information is shown, or Ms. Spencer is very aware of how to get hold of me.
Okay, any questions or comments for Jeremy?
Hey, I do have a question. Hey, Jeremy, you mentioned how to give input on the Riverport study. But for the truck parking, will you have something similar once you get the consultant on board, or how best to share any issues or opportunities that any of our committee members see or any of the members of the public who are listening today?
One large component of the truck parking is going to be stakeholder involvement. So we want to hear from the consultants how they propose to get that, whether it's through summits, whether it's through surveys, reaching out to groups like this. I mean, we expect that the truck parking assessment will really reach out to the public, because the public's going to be how, who knows where the demand is the greatest.
Great, thank you.
Jeremy, is there where can we get the presentation that you just put out here? Is there somewhere where we can share this?
I can share it with Ms. Spencer.
Okay, right. Because I'm thinking this is something that maybe we could give to members of fiscal court, folks like that, if they could see this.
Certainly.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Jeremy. We appreciate it. It's very interesting. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we are going to remove action item number 9, the 2025 Transportation Improvement Program. The staff will email changes to folks on that. That'll be coming by email, and that'll be coming very soon. You'll be notified of that, so we're going to skip that one. That takes us down to other business. Is there any other business to come before this committee? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There's a motion to
Bernie
adjourn.
Bowling.
Thank you, Bernie. Is there a second?
Second, Kevin Beatty.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We'll see you all in about an hour. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.